Hello, hello. We'll be getting started here in just a couple of seconds. Give a few more people to log on, but we're just a few days before Christmas, and I'm sure people are. If you couldn't tell from the background that I've got today, I see we have a couple folks on. All right. Oh, this is going to be a fun one for me. One of my favorite grape varietals up. I'm ready. I think let's do it. All right, my friends. Hello. My name is Brad Beard, owner and winemaker for Mercury Wine, located in downtown Guayasville, California. Most of you already know that. Welcome to Tastings with Brad. This is where I'm going to be going through one of my wines, giving you some nice in-depth knowledge on where the grape came from, what the grape became, and what's happening with the grape around the world, and why it's one of my, at least this one anyway, one of my absolute favorite grapes. And for those of you that are playing along today, you guys are muted. But if you have a question, don't worry about jumping in. You can do that at any time. But I will be stopping throughout the my little dissertation and asking for questions. But it seems like most people prefer to ask the questions at the end, which is totally fine with me. So here we go. Today's grape varietal we're going to be talking about is Mourvédre or Mourvédre, like the Frenchies would like to call it. The wine that coincides with that is my element. The element will always be a base wine of mainly Mourvédre. The last few years, it's been about 90% for me. So let's go for it. All right, I already told you Mourvédre is what the Frenchies call this grape, but wait, it's not theirs. It is a Spanish grape varietal, and I give it to the Spanish because they've had it for 2,000 plus years. Most likely the Phoenicians brought it from somewhere else in the Mediterranean, but we have not located any of the ancestry grapes that that it may be associated with, or it might be a grape varietal that they brought up and then intermingled with some other Spanish grapes. We don't know quite the entire genealogy on it, but if it's been in Spain for a couple thousand years, let's go ahead and say it comes from there. And then, of course, the Romans, as they did, they moved things around, and the Romans were the ones that took it up into France. And it is in a few different locations up there, but it does have a lot of different names. And if we talked about the French name, I call it Mourvédre. But if you are in Spain, about 75% of the people will call it Monastrell. So at least it starts with an M, just like Mourvédre, or Matero. Matero is also a name used for Mourvédre over in Portugal, but interspersed throughout Spain, they will call it Matero. A lot of the U.S. producers that were producing this grape many years ago call it Matero. The young guys like me call it Mourvédre. So well, we know it's in a few different places around the world, so it is a fairly widely planted grape. So throughout Spain, your biggest region, your most prestigious region for Spain and Monastrell or a Matero would be Humilia, one of my favorite regions. Nice and warm. It grows it beautifully, lots of wonderful flavors, and they'll typically keep it 80 to 90% pure varietal. So that's also nice. So Spain has the largest plantings, and I think it's in the 50 or 60,000 hectares. And then France comes in second, US third, and then you can disperse Australia and South Africa for the rest of it. In the United States, again, California will dominate with this grape, but there's a little bit up in Washington, and Oregon started to do some planting as well. But Spain did have it first, had it for about 2,000 years. Why is it a great grape to be grown in Spain? Because Spain's very hot. It loves to be planted in warm weather. There's a few cool regions that do plant it, but they do find it very difficult because it is a late ripening grape. And typically at the end of your growing season, you have rain and cold, no matter what hemisphere you're in. And they find that it doesn't quite complete its ripening, sort of like in Bordeaux, where you've got Cabernet Franc or Petit Verdot. Most of you probably haven't had it from Spain, and so you don't know it as Monastrell. Most people probably would recognize it as a GSM blend, a Grenache Syrah Mourvédre blend. That would be a Côte de Rhône or a Rhône blend, but you will not find it in the north of Rhône. You will only find the Mourvédre in the south. Why? Because it's a late ripening grape. The farther north you go, the less chances you're going to get it ripe, the more chances you're going to have it get mildew, and then it doesn't work out for you. So in the north of the Rhone, they do not have it. It is absolutely a southern Rhone grape. And where mine's grown, mine is from the Alexander Valley. It is up above the Alexander Valley, up on a benchland, so it's on the top of a mountain with a beautiful southwestern facing slope that allows me to get it completely ripe. Typically, Mourvédre for us here in the United States, or at least in my little region, is more widely planted in Dry Creek, because Dry Creek's about 5 or 6 degrees hotter than us, and that allows them to even have it in the flatland and still get it ripe. But your best bet with Mourvédre is to get it up on the hillside with a southwestern facing slope, even in warmer regions like we have here in Alexander Valley. There's a little bit down in Paso Robles as well. Most of it's off the coast into the Central Valley, so that warms it up nicely and gets it going. Being a late ripening grape, so it just makes it a little more finicky. That's why it's not as widely planted as other ones. Farmers want to produce grapefruit these days, not like the 50s, 60s, and 70s where they didn't care about the quality of their fruit. Farmers absolutely care more about their quality, but they also care a lot about getting the fruit off the vine and getting paid for it. So if it's a cool year and your fruit's not ready and you don't get paid, there's a big motivating factor for them not to plant it. But when this grape does ripen, absolutely one of my absolutely favorite grapes here. It's got a thicker skin, just like Petit Verdot or Petit Syrah. So it's going to bring a lot of its own natural tannins to the game. It's also a smaller berry, so you're going to have less juice to thicker skins. That's going to make a more intense, more powerful wine. So when you're let's stick with the Rhone, where it's 600 miles north of the main growing regions in Spain. So it is cooler up there, so they definitely use it as more of a background blender. But when you're in Humilia in Spain, it can ripen up quite nicely. But using it as a background blender for the Grenache Syrah Mourvédre blend, it brings a lot to the game. As it gets older, it can bring some earthy, more meaty tones. It can bring a lot of blackberry and cherry plum flavors. But when it ripens, for me personally, and when it ripens perfectly here in the Alexander Valley, it can bring a lot of blueberries to the game. And that's what makes it really exciting to me, is that wonderful blueberry flavor that I get here. So we grow mine on the mountaintop. Gets beautiful ripening, but even for us, we've even struggled. Sometimes it'll be late October when we can finally get it ripe enough. And fortunately, if it's not a wet year and it's just cold, it's not too mildewy or anything like that. So what is a dark wine, or what is a thick-skinned wine with a lot less juice than others equal? You're going to get some really intense flavors, dark, rich. I like the wine as well because it's a medium to medium plus on the acid side. So it allows those rich flavors to really develop and not have that brightness of the acidity to reel them back. It can go high acid if you can't get it right, but if you can get it ripe, it's a medium plus acid. So It it keeps the balance of those dark, rich fruits, just enough acid to make it not be clawing or anything like that. So classic Humilia, French, you're going to be looking at a lot of black cherry. Like I said, mine gets a lot of blueberry. Oh, where are you going to find this in the Rhone? I'm going to backpedal here just a little bit. So the Grenache, Syrah, Mourvédre, you've got the southern Rhone area where I said it's only grown down there, not in the northern. Can you find this as a main varietal? It will never be single varietal, but a main varietal in France. Yes, you can. Typically in the Châteauneuf-du-Pape region, only 2 or 3 of the houses, maybe 4 of the houses will have it as a main varietal. Typically in southern Rhone, it's going to be Grenache first, maybe Syrah, then Mourvédre. But they also have 13, not 13, they have 10 other varietals they can mix in, but Grenache, Syrah, Mourvédre being the main ones. There's L'Araque is a region that's lesser known, and you can find some mainly Mourvédre based blends there as well. So if you wanted to hunt for those, you can do it there. I mentioned earlier, if you're hunting for a classic Spanish Monastrell or Mateo, you can go to Humilia, but they also do it in southern Spain as well with an 80–85% plus, so you can really get to know the grape. Absolutely fantastic. Can recommend getting them from any one of those places. But just don't forget the flavor, leaner, more intense, higher acid. Once you get into France, a little richer, a little beefier, a little earthier with the ones from Spain. I would say that mine is sort of in the middle. It's not too rich and beefy, but it's not as lean as the ones you would get from France. All right, so blackberries, cherries, plums, baking spices, leather, classic flavors from Spain. Mine, we're going to dig into, but I've got 2 of mine open today. So on my left, I've got a recently bottled 2018. For those of you that are in the late 2020 right now, you can see all those Christmas decorations. It's December 2020. So this was just bottled a couple of months ago. So it had just about a little less than 2 years in the barrel, and we got it bottled up. And then we've got a 2016, which got about the same treatment, a little less than 2 years, probably 22 months in the barrel before we bottled it. And now this one's had a couple of years in the bottle. So we've got 2 amazing wines here. We also have a little bit different blend as well. So my 2018 blend is 90. Let's make sure, Brad. There it is. Yep, I remember now. It is 95% Mourvédre, 5% Merlot. And the 2016 is 90% Mourvédre, 10% Grenache. So a little more classic Rhone-based blend here. But in Spain, they blend it with Merlot a lot. They'll even blend it with Petit Syrah and some other grape varietals as well. So let's go ahead and start. Let's start the tasting with the 2016, since it's going to be a little more rich, a little more put together, since it's had the time in the bottle as well in the barrel. Oh, and before we go any farther, real quick, both of these wines were on relatively neutral oak. I think the newest oak they saw was 2.5 to 3-year-old oak. So oak gives up most of its flavor in the first 2.5 years. And then a part of the wine saw some very neutral oak, probably 3 to 4 year. In Spain, they typically use a lot of American oak. This also saw about 50% American oak, 50% French, because I do like the softer vanilla notes that the French oak gives to it. So a beautifully dark wine. I know it is. I've got a dark red table below. Oh, you can see through here. Look how nice and dark that is. So you've got a beautiful dark plum, not really a bright cherry with this wine. Oh, up front on the nose, I'm getting a lot of stewed fruits. I'm getting a lot of stewed blackberry currant, and the blueberry is like in the middle to finish on the nose, and some baking spices. With a lot of Mourvédres, even though this is a relatively lower alcohol Mourvédre, I am picking up a little bit of alcohol on the nose as well, even though this one's only at 13.8, 13.9. Um, but I do perceive a little bit of alcohol there. But just rich, complex, elegant, a lot of layers of flavor. Mm. Oh, so right off the bat, the black cherries translate, but the blueberries kind of come up a little bit more for me, and then those baking spices from the mid palate absolutely come into play. This one's not quite old enough yet to bring in those leathery or meaty flavors, but I do know my 2011 has absolutely developed those. Maybe even a little currant up front, mixing with that blackberry and blueberry. Mid palate is where this wine really comes alive for me, where it hits a couple of high notes, hits a couple of low notes. That acid is noticeable, but not in the way. And those blueberries really come through, and you get that nice bit of baking spice. Not a jammy wine at all, so not clawing on the palate. The acids are nicely holding this wine together for me. And because it has a lot of natural tannins to it with those very thick skins, it's a very structured wine. It's telling me a really nice story from the front to the back. It's not kind of explosive or going back and forth like a Zinfandel or a wine like that. Just maybe some leathery notes on the nose right now. This wine's been open for about an hour to an hour and a half, but I did not decant it because I didn't want it to open too quickly. All right, let's compare this one to my 2018, which is unreleased right now, but we did do a pre-release. So some of you may have this wine. We did a little pre-release sale on this a few months ago, right after we got it out of the barrel and into the bottle. In this one, the nose is much more intense, but it's a much younger wine. So we have got just an absolute intense. This one, the blueberries are very dominant and dominating the black cherry and the plum. I'm not getting any of the leather or spice yet, but I'm okay with it because I know it's coming. It'll get there. That's why this wine is not released yet. Probably just now coming out of bottle shock. I think it's had 3-4 months now to settle down. But the flavors are just super intense. And so if I was looking for a wine to be what my brother Gray would call explosive or intense, I would choose this right now if I was feeling like I wanted a wine that just was going to dominate my palate. But right now, I would almost say that the aromatics are too much for me right now and are not going to be in balance with the palate. But let's check it out. Oh, those blueberries mitigate on the palate. So what I'm getting right now, I'm feeling a lot of tannin as well, being so young and being a tannic grape. Good, almost too much tannin running through here. That's okay. It's young. It needs another 6 or 7 months in the bottle. But those blueberries give way to a little more of the black cherry. All blueberry up front. On the palate, it's a little more pleasing because it's more in balance. So I'm getting a nice blueberry, a nice black cherry, blackberry, and a little bit of currant. I always think of the current as the tannins. The current is that structure of that linear flavor that's kind of running along. It's not too exciting, it's not too dull, but it kind of holds the whole wine together. And I'm starting to get a little bit of vanilla, so that's the oak that I put it on. Again, that's going to be subsiding as this wine develops. I suspect that this wine will be absolutely ready to go by July, which is about 6 months from now. I've got my dog, Freddie, who has decided that I have not paid attention to him. Come here, Fred. Come say hi. Freddie, come here. Come up here. Okay, this is Freddie, the super black lab. Everybody knows him in Geyserville. He is the best poochie in town. And he's like, Dad, quit yapping about your wine and play with me. Hey, Fred, give me just a few minutes, okay? Can I get a couple minutes? I'm almost done. I'm almost done. All right, so if you hear that little clip clopping around, that's not the reindeer that exploded into my Christmas village back here. That's actually just Freddie. So this young wine is younger, it's brighter, it's vibrant, it's showing its youth, and it's absolutely fantastic for a young Mourvédre. But I do prefer them to get a little age on them, to have those flavors that are very intense, to be a little more relaxed. That nose it's vibrant. Where this nose is just more integrated, the baking spices, the cherries, the black cherries. It's just elegant and absolutely fantastic. The 16 rocking it. Just had the 13 a couple of weeks ago. It's doing great. And then my very first Mourvédre I ever did, the 2011, still hanging in there. And just let you guys know, the Rhone wines to me age better than Bordeaux. It's the truth. I love that they can hang in there and not wane so quickly like Bordeaux's. They're so powerful. And then you had that little sweet spot when you have all this elegance. But for me, my Mourvédres, my Grenaches, my Syrahs are aging just absolutely fantastically. All right, so there we have it. I have stopped not once during this little thing, and I apologize about that. But I was rocking and rolling. And does anybody have any questions for me today? Is there anything you're thinking about? I don't care if it's a generic question about a Spanish Monastrell or a Frenchie over in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. We can discuss that.
So, Brad, on the Mourvédre's aging, you really think just yours or all Mourvédres really should be like that 4 to 6 year in a bottle to really meld and be the what you think they should be?
Yes, two different reasons for two different regions. So because it's cooler in the north, in France, in the Rhone, they need more time because they haven't quite ripened completely. So they are a little bit higher acid and they need a little bit more time. Like I was saying, those Châteauneuf-du-Papes, gosh darn it. And all Châteauneuf-du-Papes and the Côte d'Aron's in that region, I think needs some more time because they're a little cooler. And then in the Spanish side of things, down in Humilia, which is south of Rioja, so it's a warmer region, and they do a lot even further south in Spain. I like it aged a little more to let those big ripe flavors calm down and be a little bit more relaxed. So the more cooler climate, it needs more time for those acids to relax to allow the flavors to come up. And for me personally, on my Spanish ones, I prefer the Reservas, Grand Reservas, because Reserva minimum 4 years, Grand Reservas minimum 6 to 8. And so those big, ripe, juicy flavors and that higher alcohol that they're getting in that really warm region, the alcohol seems to wane, the bright fruits seem to wane, and then I get a little bit more complex wine. But so yes, I think it needs to age a minimum of 3 years to be exciting for me. And we were talking about Tempranillo just a couple of days ago, where 3 to 4 years is the minimum for me. There's no point in me drinking a younger one. There just really isn't. So my philosophy with that holds true here, and it's only been for me, since 2011, when I first started making any of these Spanish or Rhone, or this particular Spanish varietal, was making Tempranillo earlier, and then was watching and understanding how the Spanish handled this grape. It was very similar to Tempranillo, where they let it do a lot of aging. So I was just taking cues from them, since they've been doing it for 2,000 years. But the problem is, it's going to be hit or miss here in the United States, because nobody's waiting as long as I am. So you're going to have to find something that maybe was aged a lot less, but then in the barrel, and then bottle aged a lot more. I don't know anybody out here that's letting the Mourvédre sit more than a year and a half in the barrel. Most people are a year.
And what about Syrah? Are you going to have a Syrah varietal specific?
Well, I make it, and I've got it, and I was going to. My thought process was I was going to, because I started out making the Freddie Cuvée, my Grenache Syrah Mourvédre. So we got a little Syrah, we got a little Grenache, we got a little Mourvédre. And then something crazy happened, and I made the dark side. And then so all of my extra Syrah that I had made intentionally to make a varietal out of it, Freddie, simmer down, ended up going into the dark side. And as you know, my dark side is very popular. So I don't have a lot of extra Syrah until last year. So I did make more Syrah last year, with the intention of making a Syrah-based blend, where the dark side is a Syrah, Petite Syrah-based blend with a little splash of Petit Verdot, or a little splash of Peleroussan, kind of depending on where it is. So yes, Syrah is in our future. Syrah is just an absolutely fantastic grape. You've got the Hermitage, you've got that Northern Rhone, just big, beefy, meaty, earthy Syrahs. I would love to try to reproduce one of those here in Alexander Valley, Dry Creek Valley. I think we can do it. I can do it pretty darn well. And the Syrah that I've got is absolutely fantastic. So that would be a year and a half away for that project, but the project's underway. I've just got some great Syrah right now, and I'm also experimenting with French oak, American oak on the Syrah right now, to decide on which one I really like, and if which one's better for a dominant varietal. Maybe the oakier one is better for the blend, but I don't know that yet, because I'm just now, like I said, it's only been in the barrel for a year, but I've got the Syrah on both American and French oak to decide which ones I like. Awesome. All right, there's what's going to happen in Mercury in 2 to 3 years.
We're looking forward to it. So what would you say in terms of the aging and the number of years, as terms as the peak, if you went from just a all or mostly Mourvédre to something more like a GSM, one of these classic GSMs? Would you say that was less time, more time, that's going to peak at 5 years, 6 years, drink it right now? What do you think?
I can only base that when I was back when I was a wine purchaser. We had a lot of Rhone wines, and very little of them were Mourvédre, mainly Mourvédre based. All my Chateauneuf de Popes were mainly Syrah based, and Grenache based, more Syrah, a little bit Mourvédre. I only had one, and but the one I had was absolutely fantastic at the 10, 11 year mark. Based off my 2011, my first Mourvédre base blend that I did, And here's where personal preference comes in. I am loving this 2018 for its youthfulness, its brightness. I'm thinking gamey meats right now, and I'm not a big gamey meat guy. I'm thinking duck, I'm thinking lamb for this, and I'm loving it for its vibrance, but it's not what the wine is for me personally. I like it. It's fun. I can find a pairing for it. But moving over here to the 16, where we've got more elegance, and I'm going to say the 16 is still a baby. So a quick answer to the question is, for me, Mourvédre, my Mourvédre, especially hold. The 16 has many, many years to go. I also made a 13 as well. It's doing fantastic. So just last year I drank an 11. Gosh dang it. It's oxidizing. The fruits are waning, but the acids are beautiful and the layers and complexity are fantastic. Zero, nothing like this 18. But that intrigues me on how a wine ages. And so when you ask me where should it be, it becomes like a personal question where I've got to flip it around for you. If you love drinking old Bordeaux's and old Chateauneuf de Pops, then I would say absolutely mine's going to make it and going to give you actually probably more better flavor than they had, just because I get a little better ripening out of my fruit. But if you don't like the oxidized or more subtle flavors, then I would recommend drinking it a little younger. So I would say most everybody's going to be totally in tune with the 16 right now. I would say open it, drink it, have fun. The 13 getting just a little darker, a little richer, more complex. And for me, when I'm geeking out about the wine, that's important to me. A fleeting flavor that I missed when it was so ripe and vibrant. And I opened it an hour ago, and all of a sudden I picked up a little leather or a little baking spice that I didn't get earlier. That kind of intrigues me, being very ADD, and if something's the same while I'm drinking it, then I'm going to stop paying attention to it. But if a wine is evolving while I'm enjoying it, then I'm going to start paying more attention to it again. Like if it's at a dinner party and a wine starts evolving, I might excuse myself and go and investigate that wine a little more. So it's a personal thing. So, but I understand people's personal preferences. So if you come to me and say, Brad, I don't want it to be so young that it's not, very complex, but I don't like my wines older, always please email me. Hey, Brad, where's this wine at? Tell me what you like in your palate. If you like a wine that's a little more vibrant and you don't like the an oxidized, more gentle, subtler wine, tell me, and I can help you out, because I am tasting these wines along the way. Hi, handsome.
Well, mine's been opening up here a little bit, and I'm definitely getting more of the vanilla on that, and I'm definitely getting that leather.
Which vintage do you have, my friend?
The one on your right is
the 16.
Yes, that's what I got.
Awesome. Yeah.
And so I'm digging on that right now. That is coming out great. And I can tell you that if I sat this back for another year or year and a half, it's going to get even more yummier and weirder and deliciouser.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. This wine is drinking beautifully, like right now. I would absolutely enter this wine in a competition if I cared to, because I think it's an excellent representation of Mourvédre, Monastrell, Matero here in California. I would put this up against anybody's out here. This is a stunner. Okay, now we'll talk about my personal palate. Is I want a little more age. I want some more subtlety, some more nuances. I want some other baking spices to come out of this wine. Yeah, this wine is really fully in its prime and hasn't even started to go down the aging slope at all. I'm with you 100%, but beautiful. And in a couple of years, it's going to be fantastic for me.
Oh, it's going to be hard to wait. I mean, I go walk around the house. I go, Where did that one go? I had a 2013. Where did
Well-
that? What? It disappeared.
Well, this is what I need to do for
blind
you.
fairy.
I think tomorrow we're releasing some 2013. So maybe you should shoot us an email saying, "Could I have some 2013? Because I want to drink. I want to keep my 16s held back,
Oh,
and I want to
okay.
drink 13 now."
Okay.
Shoot us an
Now
email,
that I can do.
and I can break
do.
apart.
And it's not like fishing. I mean, you can't have like a catch and release program. I mean,
No. You gotta. It's a catch and save program. But and then you tell Grady to have me slide an 11 in your stocking.
I will.
Because I
ask.
think you'll really enjoy the 11. And then when you drink the 11, and I'll just go ahead and say drink it between now and the holidays, because you'll know where the 13s and 16s are going. Does that make sense? And then
Yes.
you'll have a better idea of when you should revisit your 13s. Like, oh, the 13 was great. I love it. If I have any more left, I should drink them the next couple of years. But the 16, still a little tight. Loved it. Delicious wine. Yay.
Okay.
But I want to wait till here. And that way you have better knowledge on your palate and how the wines are evolving.
All right.
I am getting a notice that I should probably start wrapping things up here. Do we have any more questions out there?
Yeah, the two completely unrelated questions. The sparkling. Your sparkling, I'm loving it. Around here, there are several places that have an alternate version or an alternate method for doing the sparkling. Pétillant natural. Would you consider that? What's your position on that particular methodology?
Typically a little sweeter, not as vibrant in the bubbles. And so for me, and those wines are meant to be consumed a lot younger. If you've been drinking the 10-year anniversary, that wine, I produced the wine, and then we dosaged it and let it sit for 2 years and let it develop those flavors and that nuttiness and that those wines are meant to be a little younger, a little more fruity, a little more vibrant, and I think they have their place. But when I'm investing that kind of money in a 5-year project, I had better be able to compare it to a Premier Grand Cru, and that my wine stood up to the best of the best that the world had to offer. So I don't have a problem with that style. And I probably could sell, if I made it, it would be a lot less expensive because it doesn't take as long to produce it. So I've never done it. Maybe it's in my future as things go along. And then
Or is that just me?
Brad froze. Yeah.
Oh, now he's back.
Yep.
But yeah, I can understand.
I froze. I'm sorry.
No. I can understand what you're saying because
There I am.
if you look at the bottles and you look at how you got to use a crown cap to get that closure, you get more of a beer like
Yes.
set of bubbles and more of that texture. Plus, you get that kind of guck down at the bottom, and so it's very much
because they don't just.
drink
The thing is, they don't disgorge them. And so you've got your yeast and your little bodies laying down in the bottom of the bottle. And so that is the big difference, so I will disgorge my wine or my champagne method. So I will riddle them down and I will get all the gunk out of it to have a completely clear. And so they're almost, to me, two completely different wines. The only thing that joins them is the fact that there's some bubbles.
And I can understand why the millennials that I see are kind of glomming onto those.
Well, and don't forget,
so different
sugar,
than that.
Higher amounts of sugar left in those wines because those little wee beastie yeasties don't eat it all up, and so there's a higher amount of sugar, and I enjoy sweet wines, fortified wines that are sweet, all of that. But typically I am a dry wine consumer, meaning very low residual sugar in all of them. And because the sugar to me gums up the flavor profiles. And I'm getting yelled at. All right, guys. Any more questions? A quick one that I can answer real fast from anybody? Otherwise, thank you guys for joining me on Wednesday. We're gonna be doing it from Wednesday from now on. We also upgraded our sound this week, so we're doing all sorts of great things. But thank you guys so much, and we will see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m.